Now, many of you may find life in Europe difficult, and for some of us, that may be a difficulty that comes from the fact that we don't give ourselves sufficient time off. I mean, the goal of spiritual formation, becoming like Jesus, may remain out of our reach because we don't have sufficient times, lengthy enough times, in which we aren't doing our main work or even our secondary work. There's this Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I'm sure you've seen it. And down at the bottom, there's like survival. And I think a lot of us think that we live in that space, survival, but we really don't. Most of the people watching this channel, I'd say all of them, are up on the higher levels of the hierarchy of needs. And here it is very easy to connect our work with our significance as a person. And that leads to overwork. And that is not something that really matches up with the way that Jesus lives. I'll remind you, Jesus actually did take vacations. If you read your Gospels and ask yourself, why is Jesus up in Tyre and Sidon? What is he doing there with his disciples? And I think the answer is he's getting time off. It's a vacation, holiday. He's traveling. Hey everybody, welcome to the Sanctus Forum. I am Michael Stewart Robb, better known as Mike. And this year on the Sanctus Forum, we're talking about lifestyle issues that are basic to life, which are necessary if you want to have any hope of some kind of spiritual formation in life. And today I want to talk a little about vacation or holiday if you're in the UK. Now I recognize that this is an issue which is not that significant for people who are in the lower class. So if you're upper class, middle class, or even the upper part of the lower class, then you probably can think about vacation. Now, that doesn't mean that we need to dispense with vacation, with holiday time, in order to find some sort of solidarity with those who don't have it. I mean, one of the poorest ways to help the poor is to become poor yourself. So I think this is a pretty universal topic, and just because there are some people in the world who can't even think about it doesn't mean that the other people should dispense with it. So let me start with a little story, and this is from the beginning of my time in Europe, my first post, my first job here, and I hadn't been in Germany for longer than, 6 or 7 months. I certainly hadn't been there a year. And I spoke to my supervisor about what I should be doing in the summer. And I was expecting something like, paint the church or some sort of project. And his answer really surprised me. I can still hear the tone of voice in which he said it, which was very casual. He said, you should take 3 weeks of vacation. And that just, my jaw dropped figuratively. Because, well, for one, that he would even suggest vacation as something that I ought to do. I mean, a boss say, please do this, take vacation. Another thing is, coming from America and maybe my own family, a long vacation would be 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a long vacation. You do that maybe every 5 years or 10 years or something like that. Usually a normal vacation would be 1 week. That he so casually said 3 weeks was like, wow, 3 weeks. And, we're ministers. We're trying to help people. We've got, maybe the most important job in the world. Like, why are we taking that long away from that important work? And yet it didn't take much for me to come around and realize, wow, I wish more senior ministers or supervisors were like that and thought about the people that work for them in that way. 3 weeks of vacation. To be honest, I think I only got 2 away from home, and I may have had a light work week for another week. But it was interesting. It was a challenge maybe that is hard for some people to meet. Can you take a long vacation? I don't think some people can really do it. But there's a few thoughts that I have about this over my many years of now working. I'm not a beginner on the job anymore. And one thing about vacation is length has an effect, okay? Just having a day off here or there doesn't have the same effect as a longer period of time together. Now, there's no rule here, but you're going to have to experiment, and you're going to have to say, well, what is it like to actually have this many days or this many days or this many days? And I don't know, maybe I would assume that maybe it's different for different people, and some people need more than other people, but length does have an effect. And when you think about your annual leave, your vacation time, your time away from work, think about it in terms of longer periods of time. I think too, in terms of how we define this, what you do doesn't matter so long as enjoyment is in the forefront. So I'm really not the sort of person who really enjoys sitting on a hot beach for days on end. A day, and that's probably enough for me. I could probably do that every 3 years and I'd be satisfied. But find something that you do enjoy. I have a friend, he works in computer programming, and what he would love to do on his time off is take a study course on the book of Revelation. It's the sort of thing that he doesn't get to do normally in his year, and therefore the ability to do an intensive course and study this book, which he loves in the Bible, just gives him a great sense of renewal and refreshment. Now, other people doing something more active, biking for a long period of time, taking a big bike tour, some other kind of athletic accomplishment, that's refreshment, that's enjoyment for them. Taking an adventurous travel thing, not just being driven around but in a bus somewhere, but actually having to figure things out and have some adventures along the way. Actually, that's more my thing. So and for other people that would be stressful. But there's no real rule here. Just as long as you actually are enjoying what you're doing, and it's not what you normally do. I mean, you can enjoy your work, but here we're looking for a kind of enjoyment which is different from the type of enjoyment that you get from your work. Third, and I think this is a little surprising, but sometimes we need a break from spiritual disciplines. I don't mean a complete break from God, but I certainly mean a break from the attempt through the disciplines to put on the habits of Christ. Sometimes we just need to take a break and pause from them. And so I wouldn't get very worried about the fact that in this lengthy period of time in which you're enjoying yourself, that you don't give the same amount of time to studying the Bible or to worship or to fasting or whatever discipline you have incorporated into your life that you need at this point in time. I wouldn't get too worried about the fact that you don't get to do that during this time. See, some of us need to learn to enjoy the goodness of God, because some of us prefer misery, we prefer hardship. We've been trained that way in a very wrong way. Or some of us have been given a habit of stinginess, and we need to just find times in which we just let loose and we just spend money in kind of frivolous, lavish ways. And those are important habits for Christlikeness and things that we are trying to actually imitate in our Savior. And my fourth point is that your body, your soul, your mind was made to need rest in sufficient quantities. Now, that's just the way that you were built. You need to have times that are off times as well as times that are on times. But if you don't have them, then you're going to be missing a particular nutrient that your system was built to have. Now, rest may mean very different kinds of things. It may mean a certain kind of activity. It may mean that you're solving, I don't know, logic puzzles or reading murder mysteries or something like that. It may not be just inert existing, but it needs to be something that just changes the landscape for you. And you don't have to go on exotic tours or anywhere. Although I would maybe suggest for some people that being away from their home, especially if they're not somebody who travels for work, would be helpful. And we just need to find inexpensive ways or ways that fit with our budget of doing that. Now, I really do think this is something that is basic to life. And if you find somebody who can't find the time in their year to have times off, times of enjoyment, I would be a little skeptical about how healthy they're living, and whether then those other times, their whole life, really is going to help them become like Jesus as maybe they want to be. And maybe you're one of those people. So I just want to pass that on to all of you. And if you think about 2023, 2024, think about times when you can just be gone, absent from the stuff that really makes you significant in this world, the work that you're doing. Take time away and enjoy the goodness of the Lord. Well, thanks for making it all the way to the end of this video. Do like it if you've made it all this way. And there is a almost monthly newsletter put out by the Sanctus Forum, written by me almost monthly because I don't have a chance to write it regularly all the time. But sign up for that at sanctus.institute, and you can keep up with everything that we're doing in Sanctus here in Europe. So thanks. See you next time. Bye. Get everything said?